Our next speaker is something slightly different. We're moving a little bit away from our day jobs, and we're going to her really for a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of a view into our world from the outside. So we're hoping we're going to provide you with a lot of stimulation from our next speaker. But she's going to tell us really about the art of storytelling. Now, sometimes we may forget, working with the nuts and bolts of media, that we really should be storytellers ourselves. So please welcome to the stage Sarah Kay.
Good morning, my name is Sarah Kay, and I am an American spoken word poet. In the US, I often have to explain that spoken word poetry is a type of poetry that is performed. I usually tell people it involves creating poetry that doesn't just want to stay on paper, that something about it demands that it be heard out loud or witnessed in person. The first time I ever performed, it was for a room full of teenagers my age. I was so nervous. I performed my poem, and I received applause, and by the time I got off stage, I was shaking. There was a girl in the audience who came up behind me and tapped me on the shoulder. When I turned around, she said, "Hey, I really felt that." And it was like lightning had struck. The idea that I could share a poem and someone else could feel exactly what I was feeling at the same time was thrilling to me. I wanted to experience that again and again, and I grew up in New York City, so I was very lucky that there was a community of poets who were writing and performing their work in clubs and venues all over the city. Now, I was the youngest one there by over 10 years, but these poets allowed me into their community. And I came back every single week to watch them perform and listen to their stories. And I learned a very important lesson. I learned that if I had the courage to perform my poem, I might be rewarded with a room full of people who would listen to me. And a room full of people who might connect with what I had shared. And now I have been asked to perform and teach all across the US and outside the US, and I'm so excited by how amazing people are in their response to this type of art. Now, while I was away at college working on Project Voice, my father continued going to poetry events in New York City. Every time one of my favorite poets was performing, he would go and videotape it, so that I would not be sad that I was missing out on the performance. He gathered this very large collection of videos of some of the best poets in New York City. And one weekend when I was visiting home from school, I made him a YouTube account. And I taught him how to upload videos so that while I was away, I could still watch all the videos instead of having to wait until I came home for a visit. I started using these videos in the classroom. Every time I taught with Project Voice, I could show my students videos of my favorite poets performing live poetry, and they loved it. Soon, other poets started to approach my father and ask him if he would please videotape their work too. Now, 5 years later, my father runs the largest YouTube channel of spoken word poetry online. He has over 2 million hits, over 6,000 subscribers. It is remarkable. It started as a way for him to share poetry with just me, and it has become a way for him to share poetry with people across the world. Last year, I was asked to perform at a conference in the US called TED, Technology, Entertainment, Design. This conference, like many conferences, is based on the concept of gathering passionate, inspiring people into one room so that they can share ideas together. However, unlike many elite conferences, this conference believes in open access. They film every single talk that is given, and they put each talk as a video online, available for free. Since speaking at that conference, I have been amazed at the global reaches of the internet. Over 1 million people have seen the video of my performance at that conference online. And I receive emails every day from people from Kenya, Singapore, Egypt, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Romania, and on and on and on. The list is endless. Many times these emails are asking if I would please tell them where they can find more examples of this type of art. And I am so happy to point them in the direction of YouTube and my father's channel, where they can find more examples of different styles. Someone recently told me that they think that the internet is going to destroy spoken word poetry. That they think that now that spoken word videos are available online, people will no longer gather in person to see it. Now that the world is becoming more and more digital and we experience so much of our day-to-day through a screen, who is going to take all the time and effort to go out and see it live? But I disagree. I think that the internet is creating a new enthusiasm for an ancient art form, and it is allowing many more people to have access to it, especially people who do not have access to a club where they can go and see this type of art live. And that is amazing. It is not replacing the experience of live performance. I'll give you a wonderful example. 2 months ago, I was sitting on a park bench in New York City with my best friend, and this beautiful woman approached us. She had a very thick accent, and she said, "Perdóname, excuse me, are you a poet?" I said, "Yes, I am a poet." And she said, "I know you. I have seen your video online. I am from Spain. I am also a poet. My poetry is very different, but I like your work very much." She told me that she had just arrived in New York a few hours ago. It was her first time in the country, and she was so happy to have found me because I was one of the few people that she knew in the US. I loved that she thought that she knew me. After just seeing videos of my poetry online, she felt close enough to me to consider me a friend. I told her about the club in New York City where I had gone every single week to see poetry while I was growing up, and she decided that she was going to go that very night to see poetry. She was so excited about seeing live poetry in New York City. Now, the internet is what allowed that woman to discover me. And maybe fate is what allowed her to find me, and what allowed me to point her in the direction of the very place where I first fell in love with poetry. The place where you can stand side by side with other poets and really taste the poetry in the air. The internet and social media is not replacing that experience. It is helping us to remember the power of it. It is helping us find each other again, to return to a place where we can share and tell stories, where we can share the things that move us and the things that anchor us to our culture, to our families, and to ourselves. Thank you.